Hello and welcome to another episode of Suddenly Single. Today I'm very excited. I've got with me ITV's Dr Hilary Jones, who also now has his own podcast and YouTube channel with 1 million viewers.
Yes.
Yeah, some great guests. Piers Morgan.
Piers was my inaugural interviewee, and the latest was Jeffrey Archer.
I know.
So, I'm blessed with some great guests who I nab at ITV.
I'm coming to you for tips of how I get these people in here.
Just wanna get out of here.
Well, I'm lucky because I can nab them in the studios at ITV.
Of course you
can.
can.
Yeah, and I said, would you... And sometimes I call in a favour.
Do you?
Over the years, I've had a few celebrities say, Doctor, whilst I'm here, could you just look at this, or could you just tell me about that? And then I can call in a favour later on and say, well, remember I did that for you? And famously, I took out stitches from Vinnie Jones's face, and I was very careful not to hurt him. and so I haven't asked him yet.
Show.
I'm going to try, but I call in favours, and people usually say, "Yeah, sure. If it's a health show, I'll come and talk about anything to do with health that I'm comfortable with."
See, that's the funny thing about being a doctor, isn't it? You get to do a lot of things, and we'll get onto that later. But what I'm going to ask you, first of all, before we start, is Under the Darkening Skies. This is the third in your trilogy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the reason that this book fascinates me is you are very good. Best charity is called The Not Forgotten. Princess Anne is the patron, and we do 2 things a year that you always support us with. You always come to Buckingham Palace, and you always come to St James's for the troops. And your books are very much about the wars, aren't they?
Very much so.
So do you want to tell us a bit about, the whole trilogy,
Sure.
just in case people haven't read them?
So the inspiration for the first novel was during COVID, when we were clapping for NHS workers, frontline workers, on a Thursday evening on our doorsteps, and we were dealing with COVID, and I saw a lot of parallels between the frontline soldiers of the First World War and the Spanish flu of 1918, which killed more people than the war did.
Yeah. So
I suddenly found myself writing this sort of allegory, comparing 1914 with our pandemic. And I just got completely immersed in the research, which I found fascinating. So it's about a young couple. He comes from a working class background. He's a stretcher bearer on the front line. She's a young nurse, and they meet. They fall in love. The romance continues, and it's all about the way medical advances have to keep up with weaponry and warfare, because as weapons get ever worse, the medical treatment has to get ever better. And then the second book continues with the same characters between the 2 wars, and this book is about the production of penicillin in the lead up to the Second World War. And again, there's romance, there's drama, there's medical stuff.
it's a bit like real life, isn't it?
It's a bit like real life, but I've loved doing it. Absolutely loved it.
I mean, this is a bit of a crass link, really, but I kind of feel I need to ask it now because we started talking about medical things. What's the strangest request that you've ever had as a doctor?
Oh, I suppose there've been a number. I mean, over the years, one is never shocked or surprised, but being asked to, reduce the size of a woman's labia for cosmetic reasons as a GP was a bit extraordinary, and something I had to pass on.
Was that after birth?
No, it was just...
She just wanted it just generally trimmed?
Yes, and it is a cosmetic procedure, which is done,
yeah.
but it's not something really in the realms of a GP usually.
I mean, do you send a lot of people to plastic surgeons when they come in with strange requests?
I do refer people, but I do also tell them not to go to anyone who isn't registered and accredited and reputable, because you've only got to look at the headlines every day at the moment, and even today, frontline story about a woman who had fake Mounjaro injections for weight loss, and she nearly died. Yeah. But fake butt lifts being done in public toilets and things, it's horrendous.
Do you think they're actually doing that over here?
Yes, they are. They definitely are. And there's no doubt that the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, are currently looking at enormous amounts of fake weight loss jabs because they're cheaper.
Yeah, well, yes, cost isn't a factor, right?
It's a factor, but it's money that isn't well spent because you don't know what you're getting, and it could be lethal.
Yeah.
So when I refer someone, I refer them to people I know and tell people not to go elsewhere or even abroad sometimes, unless you can be absolutely sure a clinic abroad is reputable, because you don't know what you're going to get and there may be no aftercare.
It is weird, isn't it? Because we are going to get onto in a minute the reason for this show is obviously I became suddenly single again at 50, and you've been married 3 times. But I mean, on a surgery level, I do find it. I get it. I actually had a facelift, and I have Botox, and I'm probably going to have another facelift. And
Not that you need one.
Thank you. But I think when your confidence is shaken, but on what level would you think walking into a loo and getting your butt injected is going to get you a boyfriend?
It's desperate, isn't it? It's desperate.
Is.
I mean, and they're, what we need to give women more of is confidence, self-confidence, being happy in their own body, and persuading them that you mustn't do this for your boyfriend. You must do this for yourself if you really need to. But have more confidence in yourself and your personality before you start doing drastic things, because often one treatment leads to the desire for another, and it's never enough. And I think there's a balance.
Well, you can see that in some of our reality stars.
Absolutely.
I mean, some of them have had a little bit too much, in my personal opinion. We won't name them, but I think everyone will know who we're talking about.
Sure. I mean, it can be life-changing.
Yeah.
For example, I was lucky enough once to go out with a page 3 girl.
Which one? I mean, she might be a friend of mine.
It was a long time ago.
Did she turn up at a do that we went to the other evening?
No,
Wasn't that one?
No. It was a long time ago. But she I saw a picture of her as a child, and she had quite a large nose, which she was very self-conscious about. But her nose job changed her life. She became a very popular page 3 girl.
We see, so it can work.
Oh, absolutely, it can work. And she was great. She was great fun, a great sense of humour. But she got that confidence boost, and it almost changed her as a person. Yeah. In the right way, in a good way.
How did you get into TV?
So I was a GP in Hampshire, and my wife at the time said, have you ever seen breakfast TV? You'd be quite good at this. So I had a little look, and I thought, oh my goodness, they're using a lot of academic professors who speak jargon, and they're not very user-friendly. And I thought, I fancy having a go at that. And I wrote to TVAM in 1979. And said, "Giss a job." I said, "You're using a lot of professors, speak a lot of jargon. They're not very friendly. What about a bog standard GP such as myself?" Yeah. And I was very lucky because the boss at the time was an eccentric Australian called Bruce Gingell, and he said, "I agree with you. I'd love to meet you." So I went up to the studios and met them. They gave me a trial, a 2-week trial, and I'm still there. Wow. 36 years on. So they put me on with entertainment guests like Dudley Moore and Charlton Heston and Joan Rivers, and we had banter. We had medical banter with the stars, and it worked really well. So people learnt but were entertained at the same time.
So the stars would actually say to you, "Dr. Hilary, this is what's wrong with me." What was wrong with Dudley Moore?
Oh, he came on. You remember at the time he was doing adverts for Christmas turkeys.
Well, I don't know if I do remember.
Yeah, he did an advert for Christmas turkeys, and the subject they wanted me to talk about that particular day was making sure your Christmas poultry was cooked properly and thoroughly, because otherwise undercooked poultry can give you Campylobacter food poisoning. Yeah. So there I was talking about that, and he said, "Oh, I didn't know I was going to be talking to Dr. Hilary about this." So we had a nice little banter, whereas he was talking about his advert, I was talking about cooking your Christmas turkey properly, and so people were entertained. So sometimes we talk about. Charlton Heston was talking about his fitness regime because he looked great, didn't he, after Ben Hur?
Yeah, he did.
And I was saying how exercise is, how important it is. So it was that kind of interlinking that worked really well. It wasn't like a didactic lesson. And I spoke, the same language as the viewers spoke when they went to see the doctor. I didn't use big, fancy medical terms.
Did anyone not like it?
I don't think so. It seemed to catch on, and people thought, no, he's bringing medicine to the masses, if you like, and he's taking away the white coat thing and the desk between you and the patient. He's making it accessible. Yeah, and that's why doctors often in the media call themselves by their Christian names. So it might be Dr. Ranj, or it might be Dr. Amir, or Dr. Hilary, or Dr. Zoe. Yeah. it's that feeling of we're accessible, we're
Personal,
approachable and personal.
And you were saying, like with Charles and Heston, that fitness is pretty important to you. And Dee, your lovely current wife, she's a fitness instructor, or she certainly was when you met.
No, she is. She's
still is.
Pilates and yoga instructor, dance teacher, and she's phenomenal. She does 2 or 3 classes every day, and then does a 5 or 10K run. Keeps herself really fit, and also keeps me in good order as well.
So let's talk through your 3 marriages, Dr. Hilary.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Marriage number 1. Why did that end?
Why did it end?
I will say that I've had about quite a few serious relationships, so I'm not judging anyone.
Well, I was married to a very glamorous ex underwear model for Triumph.
Okay.
And she was French, so she lived in Nice, and I was introduced to her by a mate of mine who I studied French with at school, and we went down to France. He was going out with his sister, and Anne-Marie came over to this country, and we got married, and we were together for around 10 years.
Okay.
And got 2 lovely kids, but we were so ridiculously young.
Yeah.
When we got married. I mean, I was 24 when I got married. As most 24-year-olds.
My husband was 22.
Was he?
Well,
of course, we think we know it all at that age, and we don't. There's so much we learn and we change, and I think we both changed to a certain extent. I was working all hours as a young doctor, and she was in a different country to her own country, and I think we just developed differences and drifted apart, and we wanted different things. It was as simple as that, really.
Did you have children together?
Yeah, we had 2 lovely children. One, my oldest child, is now a GP in Hereford.
Oh wow! Followed in your
footsteps.
Yes,
he's the only one who did, and I call him Jesus because he's got such a lovely nature.
Oh.
He's 6'5". He's a gentle giant, and he's so kind and patient. That he just doesn't. He's very laid back.
And what's his name?
Tristan.
Tristan.
Yeah.
So you didn't name him after an explorer like you were named?
No, but I did name him after an island where I was working called Tristan da Cunha in the middle of the South Atlantic.
So you followed a family tradition?
Kind of.
Named after Edmund Hilary.
Sir Edmund Hilary, who climbed Everest first. Yes, so I worked on this most isolated inhabited island in the world, which is a British dependency called Tristan da Cunha.
Wow.
And he was conceived there.
Okay.
So his first name.
It's a bit of a Beckham move, that,
isn't it? A bit of, but not Brooklyn, is it? Tristan is a bit,
Yes, that is an actual name, not just a bridge.
Exactly, yes. Luckily my son wasn't conceived in Brentford or something like that.
Chigwell,
yeah, got a certain ring to it.
So was it just the one child?
No, Sebastian came along 15 months later.
Okay.
And Seb is a lawyer.
Okay.
And
very clever.
And they're very close, those 2. So we had 2 lovely kids who were bilingual. That was the benefit of having a French wife. The kids are bilingual, which is always a benefit.
So they spend a lot of time in France, do they?
They love France. Yeah, they're Francophiles, and they visit, and we play this fantastic game where you say, "What is the French word for light switch?" And oh yeah, so we try and catch each other out. It's quite a good game.
And then your second wife, how did you meet?
Okay, so I was now in general practice by then,
and
Sarah was a health visitor, and a very good one. She was not only a good health visitor, but she would take, for example, women who'd been victims of domestic abuse, or were being bullied, and she would help them do a flit, physically help them do a flit from an aggressive, abusive partner.
Wow,
which took a lot of guts.
Yeah,
and. We had 3 children. We had twins who were born prematurely, 28 weeks, and then the last child came along, Dylan, about 3 years later.
Okay.
So again, we had lots in common in terms of we were both healthcare professionals, we both had busy lives, and then around that period, my media career was accelerating and
Yeah.
taking off, and so that put some constraints on the marriage.
So did you meet at an exercise class? I mean, how did you two come around?
She was recruited by ITV to come and be the fitness expert on a series we were doing called the Bikini Diet.
Oh,
And
yes.
before we go any further...
When we all had to get into bikinis.
Well, I didn't. She wore the bikini, I didn't. I was the medical advisor, and we had a nutritionist as well. And, you know, what I really loved about Dee was that she was so dedicated to the 4 women that we took to Spain. For the bikini diet. Not only did she do the filming and was training them and looking at their diet, but she ate with them and she socialised with them, unlike the rest of the crew that would be in a separate restaurant or
having a glass.
Having
probably.
a glass, you know, and she was really dedicated to what she was teaching them. And they warmed to her, and I just saw what a lovely person she was, and that made a big difference to me.
But you're a lovely person. I mean, that's why you've been on TV for 36 years. You've got a very warm, empathetic manner about you.
Thank you.
But does that make it difficult for you to open up?
No, I don't think so. I'm a pretty open book, really. I like engaging with people. Just on the train here today, I was chatting to... I overheard a father teaching his young son to read, and I just said, oh, he's doing really well, and you know, we got talking.
Yeah.
And there's not enough of that simple engagement. Even on public transport, just sometimes it's small acts of kindness can make such a huge difference, and it inspires me. You get talking to somebody and they're surprised that you're talking to them, and then suddenly there's a conversation going, and it's heartwarming. It really is.
Aww.
I love that.
They say it's Dr Hilary.
They often do, but and they assume that you're aloof and remote and don't want to talk. But the opposite is true. I'm very happy to say, yeah, oh, you recognise, you're the one watching. That's nice, you know. And we get talking and open a conversation.
So you've been married since you were 24. During that period between now and then, and you are, do you mind me asking?
72.
72, right? You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Have you ever had a break? Have you ever had a period of being single?
No, I would say that those periods of being single were very short.
They were very short.
Very short, yeah. There'd normally be somebody in my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are used to asking women out?
Yes.
Yeah, you have done that.
Yes.
So,
although, having been brought up with 3 brothers and no sisters, it took me a long time to realise that actually you could approach women and ask them before they asked you.
you see, that's an interesting thing. My brother said to me the other day, my brother is 52. I didn't know this. He said he'd never asked anyone out in his life because he's always been asked.
Yeah.
Have you always been asked?
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah,
Women,
I've
when
always,
they like someone, are like accept missiles, aren't they?
I've always had to be, I've always had to wait to pick up really obvious clues.
Have you?
Cues, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I don't know whether it was a fear of rejection or just lack of confidence, but until I'm sure that someone's interested, you know, I'm really a bit of a wallflower.
Well, it was interesting because my brother said to me when I split from my long-term ex, he said, there was some guy at the bar and I said, oh, he's nice. He said, we'll go and say hello. And I said, I can't do that. And he said, we're going to be sitting on a bar stool for an awfully long time if you don't. And I went, well, he'll ask me. And he said, no, you won't necessarily, not at all. So that was a really hard lesson to learn. But you've never done apps or anything like that, have you?
No, I've never done a dating app, no.
So you're going to move on from Lorraine at the end of the year, yeah?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to talk about that or no?
No, we can talk about that. I think what I'll be doing is guest appearances.
Oh, okay. So you're staying with them then?
So that the word is, and I think they're still working it out, is that there'll still be a place for medical input from me. You know, I've been with them so long.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I think I'll still be appearing on Breakfast TV.
There was one particular famous moment, wasn't there? The New York Marathon moment involving the beers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I'd run the marathon. That's right. I'd run the New York Marathon.
Yes.
And I met up with my brothers two of my brothers, and we went out to celebrate. And of course, hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk, and as we had a lot of beer, and I was scheduled to do a live from Times Square, from a remote studio in Times Square, with Lorraine on her show. And I remember taking the lift up and working out how to use this remote camera, and then suddenly I was live on Lorraine's show. And she was asking me how it went. And all I remember was giggling and laughing and talking rubbish, because I was actually a bit drunk. And afterwards I thought, they're going to sack me. I've made a big faux pas. What did I say? And I phoned them the next day and I said, I'm really sorry. I said, why? They said, you were brilliant. You just sounded happy. You sounded euphoric. And it was really energetic and lovely. So I got away with it.
So you got personal friends with Lorraine then?
Oh, yeah.
Do you go out? Have a
yes, we do.
late breakfast or a dinner?
We can do. We've been out on her husband's boat.
Have you?
And often.
Ooh, where's her boat then? The Thames?
It's on the Thames.
Oh,
it's on the Thames.
Not up in
yeah.
Scotland.
I don't know if he's still got it. But yes, and of course I know.
Because he's one of the cameramen at ITV,
that's right.
isn't
yeah,
he, Steve?
Yeah, that's right. It was for years, and so obviously I've been to their house and celebrated with Lorraine's daughter. Rosie and the granddaughter, of course, to whom Lorraine is absolutely besotted. Well,
I mean, I have a 28-year-old. I will be besotted if I'm ever that lucky, I can assure you. So when you've gone through separations, I've gone through separations, are there any physical symptoms or are they different with other people? Because I do know what mine is.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I think people go through, it's one of the biggest, most stressful events in life. Separation and divorce. Yeah. So you're worried about the end of the relationship. That's very painful and hurtful. So you're also worried about financial aspects more often than not. You're worried about how people perceive you, because a lot of people take sides even today.
Yes, they do take sides.
They don't know about the real situation, but they'll take sides. And so you will often lose friends because one or other partner of the friendship will say, you don't want to see them. You don't want to see them because this has happened. So people can be very judgmental. So all of these stresses add up to physical symptoms such as, changes in appetite, changes in weight, recreational coping mechanisms such as smoking too much or drinking too much, not sleeping very well. So unless you're looking after yourself, and unless you've got that confidence to say, no, this is actually going to be better for us rather than worse, unless you've got that resilience, it can be a very, very stressful time with physical symptoms as well as psychological ones.
So would you recommend therapy for a lot of people then?
Often, yeah. Going to a good therapist can be very helpful. Going to mediation so that the financial aspect is sorted out in an amicable way, I think is a really good thing. And talking through the relationship and why it's come to an end, to make it as amicable as possible. I think it's true to say that if one side in a relationship still harbours love, it makes it harder. If you don't care about, if you don't love each other anymore, exactly. Yeah. If I think both say, well, we've drifted apart, we haven't got a lot in common, we both want to move on, it's not a problem. But if one a partner still holds on to something, that can make it awkward. From my experience and from observing the experience of others, it's very true to say that children would always want their parents to stay together, no matter what, when they're young. They don't understand when parents split up. They can take sides. They can become angry. They can become resentful and make those feelings clear, which makes it much worse for the parents who are splitting up because they're already going through their own traumas. And I don't think until children become older and more mature and start having their own relationships they really understand. They will always resent a new partner coming in for their mum or their dad. There's always going to be that standoffishness. I don't really want to get to know you. I'm going to look at you, with critical eyes. I'm going to judge you. And I think that can be really difficult. I am blessed, and I'm very proud to say that all our 7 children between us now get on really, really well. Not just going out socially and enjoying banter, but they're really close. That they all feel like they're brothers and sisters.
I mean, that is some achievement.
And it's rare, and I know it's rare,
yes.
but I'm absolutely thrilled that is the case, and I get on well with my ex-wives as well.
Do you ever spend Christmas together, all of you?
If we can, but we all lead such busy lives now, so we live in different parts of the country, and of course they've got children of their own, and they will want to spend Christmas with their children or with the other in-laws.
Yes.
So there's always, it's always difficult, but I do every year now, I hire a private room in a pub, and everyone comes together on that day.
You know what?
And that's really lovely.
That's a conversation that I've had with Gloria Hunniford, and she taught me a really good way of looking at it. Christmas Day is whatever day you make it.
Exactly.
Doesn't have to be Christmas Day.
Exactly. I totally agree with that.
And I think that's a really great philosophy.
Yeah.
And, putting up more trees and more... Can't have enough presents or what have you, can you, really?
When we all get together, it's fantastic. It really is. And we swap places halfway through the courses, and, everyone's silly, and we have a fabulous time.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone who finds himself suddenly single, what would you say?
I would say love yourself. Just because a relationship has broken down or failed, it's not the end of the world. You're going to move on. There's going to be other people that will love your company and love you. It might not happen immediately, but if you love yourself, you look after yourself, throw yourself into things that will distract you from negative thoughts. So exercise well, eat well, spoil yourself a little bit, make yourself go out and socialise. Things will happen. But certainly you don't want to sort of crawl into a corner and not go out anymore and think of yourself as a failure. It happens.
It does.
And think of it as an experience. You've learned something. So park that and move on. Life is full of joyful things, and you've just got to
Did you ever wonder how you would have reacted if your parents have split up? Because I used to think about this when my daughter was not so happy with the arrangement, shall we say. I said, no, I wonder how I would have reacted.
Well, I was lucky in having 3 brothers, so I think we'd have been all right, because we had each other for company. My mum was a fantastic influence in my life, and she taught me so much, and because my dad was a GP who was working 7 days a week, we rarely saw him. And my mum did everything in the house. I mean, she did everything, not just the cooking and the cleaning, but she did the wallpapering and the decorating.
Okay.
Because my dad either wasn't there or wasn't interested in doing that. So she was amazing. And I think if they had split up, who knows, probably the worst thing that could have happened, we'd have had to move house rather than not seeing them.
Yeah.
So I think, being in a big family really helps.
Yes.
I think it must be harder for, a singleton.
Only children.
Yeah, I would have thought so.
Yeah.
I would have thought so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm coming up.
Pick one of these.
Yes. Anyone, because we're going to do them all. So
we're going to do that. Oh, sorry. I've dropped one.
all.
Right. Shall I read it out?
Yes. If you can.
Prince Albert rings. Discuss. Yes. So I'm not a great fan of tattoos, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm not a great fan. Have you got any tattoos?
Okay. No, I have no tattoos. I don't like tattoos, and I wouldn't particularly want to date somebody with tattoos. But there you go.
I always remember.
Except if his name was Pete Wicks, I might have to reconsider.
You might make an exception.
I might do.
Pete, are you listening? So I was once in the studio. Piers Morgan just interviewed a head teacher with lots of tattoos, and Piers was grilling him, saying, "Is that a good example to show your pupils?" And at the end of the interview, Piers turned to me and said, "Hilary, have you got any tattoos?" And I said, no peers, I'm more of an intimate body piercing man myself, which made him laugh. I'm not, but it answers this question partly. Prince Albert rings. So this is where
Yes.
a gentleman,
Yes.
a guy, would pierce his private parts
Yes.
with a ring.
Yes.
It goes through his water pipe and out through his foreskin, and connect that to a chain to his girlfriend, whose ring would be attached to her own intimate parts. And I just think some people have got too much time on their hands.
I tend to agree. This must be extremely painful.
Well, yes, I mean, it must get in the way of certain activities, I would have thought.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to move too quickly,
And
would
probably
you?
isn't great for one's health, infections, sources of infection and things. So, is that the end of the? I think that should be the end of that
I think
discussion.
that's probably the
We'll
end of that
move
one.
on from
I
there.
think that's it. I'm just because I've got you and you're a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm just using your knowledge to the best of my ability.
I think the phrase
really.
"don't do this at home"
Yes.
would apply here.
Yes,
That's
yes,
dealt with that
yes,
one
yes,
then.
That's dealt with that one. Move on.
Next one.
Move on.
Okay. Well, this is great. So, what is the maddest date you ever went on?
Yeah.
Oh, let me have a think. I think it was meeting my page 3 girl on the plane. So she was going down to the south of France to do a modelling assignment, and I was sitting in a nice window seat, and she, this very lovely girl, leant forward and said, "Would you swap seats with me? I want to sit next to the window." And I looked at her and said, "Well, yes, all right, then you can sit here and I'll sit here." And we got talking, and she said, "So what do you," she said, "I'm a page 3 girl." I said, "I can believe it." She said, "Well, if you don't believe it, here I am on today's page 3 of The Sun." "Oh, yeah, without any clothes on. Yeah, I can see that. Lovely." So she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I work in a hospital." Okay. And she said, "Well, are you a porter?" I said, "No, I'm not a porter." She said, do you work in reception or something?" I said, "No." She said, "Well, you're not a doctor." I said, "Well, I'm a doctor." She said,
Why does she think you can
I
possibly be a
don't know. I
doctor?
don't know. I think because I had quite long hair at the time, shoulder length hair. And,
Oh, a bit Jesus-like.
A bit Jesus-like. And so I said, well, you showed me your page 3. I'll show you my passport. And it said,
Doctor.
Dr Hilary Jones. And she was so impressed. She said, "Oh my God, you are a doctor." Anyway, so we swapped numbers and we got together when she got back from the south of France. And we had a little relationship for a while.
Yes, and you had 2 beautifully combined children, looks and brains. So there we go.
So that was the maddest date,
That's the
probably.
maddest date you went on.
I think so.
Next question.
Next question. Here we go. What is the weirdest procedure you have been asked about? We kind of mentioned the doctor. My flaps are rather large. Can you reduce them for me?
Yes.
This is not something you can do under local anaesthetic in the GP surgery, unfortunately, and it is unusual to be asked this. People often say to me, "Hilary, have you had any awkward moments in the surgery? Have you ever been accused of any sort of harassment or anything like that?" And the answer is no. We're always very careful to make sure that if we pick up on any signs that there could be something awkward, that we get a chaperone in if we possibly can.
Okay.
It's not always possible. And there've been 1 or 2 instances where a female patient would come in and require an examination. And lo and behold, they're dressed in some outrageous underwear, which is very unusual. And at that point, I would say, hold on, go and get the practice nurse to come in and chaperone.
Okay.
And it may be what they wear all the time, but you just don't know.
Okay.
So you hear about the other side of the story where doctors are accused of sexual harassment, and often they're guilty. But you can.
I think you guys should get
protect
danger
yourself.
money, really, don't you? It's
Well, it's not common, but it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the other time that I was worried was when I was I'm sort of
No. Please do.
I was asked to do a house call on a colleague's patient. The colleague was on holiday, so we used to split up the house calls according to geographical areas. So at the end of surgery, I was asked to go and see a young woman who was a patient of my colleague, but she lived out in the sticks. She lived, out in the countryside. So by the time I got there, which is about sort of 8 miles outside the town where I worked, there was no chance of a chaperone. Okay, so I ring the doorbell, the door opens, a young woman puts her head round the door and says, "You're the doctor?" I said, "Yes, come in." So the door closes behind me, and as I turn around, she is completely naked, which I'm sure you'll agree is unusual. And at that point, I'm thinking,
my examination.
"Oh my God, I'm at risk here. No matter what I do, if I say I can't see you, I'll come back with a chaperone. 3 hours later, I could be accused of being negligent if she's genuinely ill.
Yeah.
If I proceed, I could be putting myself at risk of an accusation.
Yeah.
Anyway, she walks up the stairs in front of me, leaving nothing to the imagination, and gets into bed. And I've been asked to see her because she's got a kidney infection.
Right.
So I talked to her.
No, that involved your bottom.
I talked to her. The first thing I do, I asked her about symptoms, which are spot on for a kidney infection.
Oh.
I take her temperature, which is raised. I'm
Okay.
thinking, good, that's a good thing. She probably has got a kidney infection. I ask her to produce a urine sample. She goes to the loo, comes back. She's got protein in the urine. She's got blood in the urine.
So she was?
She's genuine. She's genuine. I give her some antibiotics and a prescription. And before I leave, I say, by the way, I said, I was slightly perturbed when you opened the door without a stitch on.
Yeah.
It's very unusual. And she said, oh, that. She said, I was raised in Sweden. We do it all the time.
Do you know that's funny? Because I'm quite friendly with Ulrika Johnson.
Yeah, so am I.
And
She's godmother to one of my children.
Is she?
She is.
We've had this conversation. She said, "Oh, you English are so uptight."
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she'll just wear her Wellingtons in the garden.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a Swedish thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but it was kind of, it's so unusual that I thought, I've always remembered that. Anyway, how did we get onto that? What was that question?
I don't know. It was clearly a good question.
Yeah, it was some of the weird things that happened in the surgery. I saw Penny's one that you did. Do you know, you look a bit like Penny
Penny who?
Smith.
Do you know what? Penny Smith, hello, my love. Penny Smith and I go drinking together.
I'm sure you do.
And she has been my most successful Suddenly Single podcast to date. You saw her the other night, didn't you?
Yes.
Because we went to the Waldorf together. And I love Penny. We're very different because Penny knows how to make fix and mend anything you like.
Absolutely.
And I'm absolutely hopeless.
And actually, in profile, you look quite similar.
Do we?
To Penny in
I'm
many
really
aspects.
flattered by that because I love Penny and I think she's attractive in a very, how do I say this? Don't be offended, Pen. Like girl next door way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've known Penny for years and years because
Yeah.
we were on TVAM together.
Yeah.
In fact, we are Smith and Jones. Of
course you are
we
Smith and Jones.
And she's got a wicked sense of humour. Do you want to hear my best story about Penny?
Yes, I do.
And she won't
Tell
mind me.
it.
She won't mind me.
mind.
She won't
She
mind
won't.
because not only is it good, but we did write it up when I wrote for the News of the World back in the day. So I have a plumber working in my house, and he's got the hots for Penny Smith. And he said, "Doctor," he says, "Can you get Penny's signature on a photograph? Can you get her autograph on a photograph?" I said, "Yeah, I think I can do that." So I saw Penny the next day at the studio, and I said, "Penny, my plumber, would you do a photo with a message?" She said, "Yeah, I'll do that." Anyway, a week later, Penny sees me and she says, "Did your plumber like the signed photograph?" And I said, "Well, you haven't given it to me yet." She said, I did. I gave it you last week. I put it in your briefcase." "What do you mean? I don't have a briefcase." She said, "Oh, God." She said, "What?" She said, "Whose briefcase was it then?" So we went to the green room and we looked in the diary of the visitors that day. There was only one visitor that day.
Who was it?
It was the ambassador of Saudi Arabia. And she went bright red. And she said, "Oh, God."
Well done, Pen.
I said, "What did it say?" She said, "It says, next time I want my pipes rodded, I know who to come to." And you know what? She never heard from him.
Oh,
She was really disappointed.
He clearly had no sense of humour.
No
He
sense
wasn't
of
for
humour.
you, my love. He wasn't for you. Well, thank you for coming in.
Siobhan, it's
You've
been a
been
pleasure.
an absolute pleasure.
Thank
you really
you.
have. Thank you.
Come and I'm